Good afternoon. I often get asked, as a coach, what do you do all day besides practices and meets? My name is Danielle Levy, and I'm the assistant coach for the Nichols College men's and women's cross-country and track and field teams. I'm here today to talk about coaching and critical thinking. There is actually a lot more to coaching besides the X's and the O's. When it comes to practices, I use critical thinking to plan out every practice. To plan out each practice, I consider the improvements from the last practice and the last competition. For track, I focus on the jumpers events, and I work with them one-on-one the most. To plan each practice, I look at the videos our managers recorded and watch how each jumper's jumps went. I watch for each phase of their jump as well as their speed. Based off these, I consider what we need to work on for the next week. I also consider the needs and wants of the athletes. To have the athletes engaged and want to learn more as well as perform better, I want them to be on board with what we are doing. This way they feel like they are involved in why we're doing each drill and they understand the importance of each drill. I could have the best plan written out, but it might not work the way I think it is. One day I had what I thought was the best of the best plan, and I had 5 drills set up for 5 different stations. I broke the athletes up into 5 different groups. I explained each drill that was going to happen at each station, and we were all excited, ready to go, and I broke them up, and as soon as I turned my back, chaos erupted. The athletes were trying to out-jump each other, see who could jump the highest, and this is when I realized I needed to have all the athletes doing the same drills at the same time. I was able to adapt and change our plan, and this is how I learned to do that type of practice moving forward. I also have to consider the athletes' bodies when I plan practice. I could go to practice and think we're going to do a lot of box jumps and working on the last step of our phase where we're really pushing off on our legs, but then I get to practice and the athletes are saying their legs are really hurting. At this point, I need to adapt and be able to change our practice to more technique-based that doesn't involve a lot of jumping and involves more stretching. This saves the athletes' bodies for a competition and keeps everyone from getting hurt. I also used critical thinking when it came to planning out our conference championship last spring. I have to take all of our athletes for men and women and lay out all the events they could possibly compete in. Then I have to consider where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. By looking at the weaknesses, I have to consider athletes who could move up in distance or move down, or maybe tack on another event in order to help our team. Once I have a list of these athletes, I have to talk to these athletes and be honest with them. I help them be aware that their talent could help our team win the championship by having them run an 800 instead of a 400, or running a 400 and an 800. At this meet, our athletes can compete into up to 6 events, so it is important to use their talent where we need them most. The athletes always understand and will compete in more events or go up in distance in order to help our team. This year, my critical thinking helped our men's team win the conference championship for the second year in 3 years. Outside of the logistics of coaching, recruiting takes place for cross-country and track and field year-round. Based off the number of graduating athletes, we look for prospective students who can fill these shoes. For both of our programs, there is no limit in roster size, so we look for individuals who fit this dynamic of our program. The nice part of cross country and track is we can just look at the results to avoid biases and judgments of the prospective athletes. Cross country and track are all about numbers, so that's why we can just look at results and know that these athletes can perform. The dynamic of our team is important to me as a coach. I promote how we are a family to our prospective students and their families. The roster size of our team is large, especially track. There are 75 different athletes in our men and women's program for track. 75 different personalities and 75 different ways of processing information. As a coach, I have to be able to adapt to all these personalities. Personally, when I am explaining something, whether it is a drill or a fundraising program or when the bus is coming for the meet, I'll explain it in several different ways so that our athletes understand. Having 75 different personalities means I need to adapt and be self-aware of the personalities I'm working with at all times. The nice thing about these 75 athletes is they're always there for each other, and no matter where you walk on campus, there's always someone yelling to you, and they're part of the track team. Outside of track, athletes approach me with their conflicts they are faced, whether it's school, work, personal, or whatever else they might be dealing with. When the athletes approach me, it is important for me to be an active listener. This means not thinking about what I'm going to say next and actually listening to the conflict that they are dealing with. At this point in time, I'm then helping them make a decision for their conflict. But it's important to me that I'm guiding them in a way that they're making their own decision and I'm not making the decision for them. For example, one weekend I had a girl call me and she wasn't really sure what she was going to do for her internship. She had two potential options. One would interfere with track and one wouldn't. Now, of course, I wanted her to pick the one that wouldn't interfere with track, but I needed her to make the decision on her own and not have to deal with my opinion. So I helped her go through the decision process by having her make a pros and cons list for each internship and really think about what she wanted and not what everyone else wanted. She then called me the next day, and she ended up picking the one that wouldn't interfere with track, and that was what she was happy with. For me, it is a small win to have athletes who consider me as a mentor and trust me to help them through their conflicts. It is also a small win for me to see my athletes perform a personal best or move on into postseason, as well as our team advancing and doing better than they ever have in the past. Without critical thinking, I would not be the coach I am today. Thank you.